Hi there.
How are you, Olivia?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I'm good.
So let's talk first about the Vatican Tapes. I'll ask you the question I'm sure you're tired of answering by now, but then I promise I'll get more original from there. Just for people who haven't seen the film, tell us a little bit about it and your character.
I play Angela Holmes. She's just a normal 27-year-old girl living her life in Los Angeles with her boyfriend, and everything seems fine, and then for some reason she's picked to be the carrier of evil, and everything starts going bad, and they have to call in the Vatican to help her, and in the end, they try, but ultimately Angela becomes something else, and everything just goes horribly wrong.
Sounds good. Now, it seems like Angela was a very physical role, a lot of weird contortions and screaming and whispering and even some prosthetics. Were you surprised by how physical it ended up being?
I knew going into the project that it was going to be really physically demanding, and I welcomed that. I jumped at the idea of getting to do this. I've been a fan of exorcism films since I was little, so it was an honor to get to do one. And I love doing my own stunts. I don't get to do stunts on every movie, so I was very excited to put on the harness and, get banged up. I had a great time doing it. It only helps me as an actor get into the character. So it was wonderful.
And, good performances are really hard to pull off in horror movies, but you especially and the rest of the cast all did a really great job. So I was curious, what was it like on set? Was there good camaraderie between the cast? Did that help your performances?
Well, thank you. The other actors were amazing, getting to work with people like Michael Pena, Gemma Hansu, Peter Anderson. I mean, they're such amazing actors, and they've been doing this for so long that, it only helped and brought a lot of gravity to the scenes. And as far as being on set, we had a month of rehearsals ahead of time with Mark and the other actors, so we got to really bond. And by the time we got on set, we were all really close, which helped because we shot the movie in 22 days, and it was a lot to do. So we had our work cut out for us. But no, they were amazing. The scenes, I think Peter Anderson and Pena and the exorcism scenes just really, we all just carried each other along during that because it was an intense ride, and I couldn't have done it without those guys.
Yeah, I would imagine so. When you're in the middle of those scenes, and you're up in the ceiling and you're growling and whatnot, and they call cut, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go fix the lights for 20 minutes. What do you do? Like, what do you guys as actors do? Like, do you stay in character? Or do you joke around? What's it like in those?
I find value in breaking character and laughing in between. I think it saves me a few times, because it's such intense material, and your body doesn't know the difference when you're back to the roof screaming and yelling and crying. It thinks something very traumatic is happening. So I felt like as often as I could to just be myself in between, or laugh a little helped me, but there were definitely days where I didn't have a choice. I had to stay in it the whole time because I was so deep in it. I couldn't shake it. There were some intense days. The exorcism scene we shot in 8 days, and we had a stage built for that, and everything was all ready for us to shoot. So once we got there wasn't a lot of light changes and stuff like that. Our DP, Mateo, had it all planned out so that we could just shoot with ease while we were there. So that helped a lot too.
Right. There's a long history of exorcism scenes dating back to obviously the most famous one, Linda Blair and The Exorcist. How did you prepare for that? And do you try to approach it from a new way, or do you try to just, kind of live up to what's been done before?
Well, The Exorcist was the first movie when I was little, when I was, I think, around 5, that I watched that really affected me and made me want to become an actor. I shouldn't have been watching it, but I
was just going to say, 5-year-olds shouldn't be watching The Exorcist, right?
I snuck into the living room when my dad was watching the film, and I was hiding behind the couch the whole time, terrified he didn't know I was there in the movie.
Right.
What Linda Blair did, I was like, wow, I want to do that, because she became a different person, and I was so amazed by it. And so when the script came along, I jumped on it. I was like, of course I want to do it. I'm a huge fan of the genre, and there's so much material out there as far as exorcisms go. that I could collect in my brain. There's so many YouTube videos and other movies, which I revisited a lot of the other exorcism films. I think The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby were the two films I pulled the most from. I think obviously Linda Blair did an amazing job in that movie,
right.
and then the tone of Rosemary's Baby is kind of what we were going for in this movie. It's a little more of a slow burn psychological thriller, getting into the head of the person who's possessed. So, yeah.
Now, you're in virtually every scene of the movie. Is it challenging to carry a movie like that on your shoulders?
It was actually, funny enough, it was okay. It was an honor to get to carry the movie and to get to be working every day. I loved it. I love working. So it wasn't taxing other than physically demanding. But no, it was great. I had such a wonderful time working with Mark, the director. We got along great, and we both were on the same page every day, and it made working super fun and easy, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Right. You mentioned that you're a fan of the genre, and you've obviously now starred in a few different horror films. Do you feel like it's kind of a rite of passage for younger actors these days that they have to put in some time in horror movies?
I think, horror films, there's a lot of horror films out there because it's something that you can make cheaper than, say, a giant superhero movie or something like that. And it's an easier film to get made independently. So it's a great place for actors to find work. And there's some really wonderful material out there, and some wonderful, amazing actors have done horror films and still do horror films. So I think, I think it's a great place for new actors and actors who've been at it a long time. If the script is good, it doesn't matter what genre it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think the horror film genre can be certainly underrated, and I think you've been in some underrated films as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you about one of your recent films, which I don't know if it qualifies as a horror film per se, but you were in The Barber, which absolutely blew me away. I think it's an amazing movie. So I was just curious if you could talk about that experience a little bit.
Yeah, the Barber was wonderful. I had a wonderful time working on that movie. I didn't get to work throughout the whole movie because my character doesn't get to finish the film. But
right.
Working with Scott Glenn was amazing. I mean, he's an old pro. He's been at this a long time, and I was Urban Cowboy is one of my favorite movies. So getting to work with him was like a dream come true. And the director of that film, Basil, was great, and that was just a really fun experience. I'm glad that people are getting to see the movie and they're enjoying it because that character was fun to play.
Sorry. It's one of my favorites this year, actually. I've been recommending it to a lot of people, so I was.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And you also were in the Chernobyl Diaries, which I think is also an underrated horror movie. And I was curious about that one, because it's kind of an odd film. It feels like it was sort of originally meant to be like a found footage film, but then it's not. So I was curious just what that process was like, and if you it was a movie that was enjoyable to film.
Yeah, that movie was fun to film. It was intense. We shot that over in the Eastern Europe areas, and it was an intense shoot. I don't know if it was ever supposed to be a found footage movie, but Oren Peli, the producer, he did the Paranormal Activity movies. He created those, and so it had that vibe because that's what he has done in the past. And that was a really fun movie to make. That was a while ago now, but people are still watching it, which is awesome. And I got to work with Oren again. I just finished the Paranormal Activity 5, so I got to be a part of that franchise. That comes out in October. So I guess I've done a lot of horror movies this year.
Yeah. Listen, that's great. I wasn't trying to say anything wrong with that. I like that.
No.
I was just curious, if it's something that people enjoy. I know you said you're a fan of the genre, so.
I don't
how could you not
seek it out. It found me, and I also have the Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. I don't know if you saw that on there. That just came out.
I know
and
it's coming
out. That's a horror
out.
comedy.
Right.
Yeah, that just came out in iTunes. I think last week, and that one I'm really proud of. I mean, I got to play the villain in that movie, and I got to be, the scary one, but it's super funny. So that was a fun one to get to do all the fun parts of horror movies, like playing with gore and one-liners and stuff like that, but still get to be super fun and playful.
Right, because the Vatican Tapes really, I mean, it's going to get classified into the horror genre, but it's not really a traditional horror film. You know what I mean? It's more of like a drama that falls into some areas of the horror category. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we always thought of it as it's a psychological thriller. It's a psychological horror.
Exactly.
It's a slow burn, and that's what we wanted the whole time. We never really wanted to make a jump scare movie, which there's nothing wrong with those movies. They serve their purpose. But this one, it was more of getting into the character's head was the important thing, and I think that the film does that, which I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely, and I absolutely adored the ending. I think the ending is brilliant. So I
good, me too.
What it is, but just wanted to let you know. I think the ending.
Thanks. I know it really sets it up for a sequel, which I would love to do. I hope that we get to do it because I would love to see where that character goes. I mean, it sets it up for such a crazy thing.
Absolutely. So finally, I know you've mentioned a couple upcoming projects. Is there anything else coming out that we should be on the lookout for?
No. Nothing other than I've mentioned. I've got a couple things I haven't announced yet, so I can't really talk about. But Paranormal Activity 5 is in October. I want people to see Dude Bro, which is on iTunes. I'm really excited about that. And then Vatican Tapes comes out at the end of the month.
Excellent. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I got for you today. So I stared
Wonderful.
a little bit away
Thank you.
from the questions you've been asked 1,000 times already today. So.
No. Those were great. Those were awesome.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm a big fan of yours. So hopefully we'll talk again sometime in the future.
Well, thank you. Wonderful meeting you.